This week's interview is with Steve Lucero. Steve Lucero is the 1985 State Speedway champion. He's also the 1996 AMA National Speedway champion. Only 4 riders since Steve Lucero have won the AMA National title in the last 20 years. At the end of the video, I threw in about 2 minutes of photos from Steve Lucero riding in the 80s. The photos are from Scott Daloisio's Facebook page, Speedway Motorcycle Photos. I'll throw a link in the description. Scott also has an Instagram page, 1980s Speedway Photos. Thank you, Scott, for letting me use your photos. Steve Lucero is just not the referee at Industry. He does a lot of other things. He's the safety coordinator. He's the timekeeper. He's on-track paramedic. And you see him help out the little kids getting started a lot of times on the line at Industry. So thank you for all you do, Steve. And now here's the interview with Steve Lucero. All right, Steve, how'd you get started in this speedway to begin with?
Well, I raced a flat track with my dad, watching kids out there race with a few of some top guys like Randy Mamola, Freddie Merkel, Jimbo Felice. And my dad came up to me. Some guy asked him if your son would like to ride a speedway bike. Didn't know nothing about it. Went out to some track in Sacramento, jumped on the bike in the pouring down rain, and turned the throttle on.
Did you grow up in San Pablo, California?
San Pablo, Northern California, yeah. And I just forget the guy's name, but he was just starting the junior program. It was going pretty good down in Southern California, but it's just going up north. Lance King was probably one of the first guys coming up north, and we raced against each other for a lot of years once I started going.
What were some of the tracks you raced at to begin with?
Up north was started out with San Jose, where the half mile and mile are. They actually made a speedway track right off the quarter mile there. Kind of dangerous, but it was pretty fun. And then we raced Cal Expo and Napa.
Do you remember your first Division I speedway start?
Well, I raced D1 outlaw racing. My dad had he never gave me the easy way of doing things. And when Lance King decided not to race juniors anymore, I think I won my first 4 races or whatever. And he told me, okay, you're not racing any juniors anymore. So I went to outlaw racing in Hanford and raced first division at a 14-year-old.
Did you get free beer when you raced for Coors?
I did get it one time, but I don't drink, so I really never asked to drink. I did a show one time, signed autographs. I brought Mike Freya with me to drink all the beer.
How did that Coors deal come about?
It came about with Brett Oxley. He was a Coors Light all his years. He won the national, and I won it the next year, so they picked both of us up for the next year.
Who were some of your main sponsors through the years?
Main sponsors always changed a little bit, but Shoei Helmets was a big sponsor for me. Oakley Goggles, Oilsol. When they first started doing the Oilsol bean oil, me and Mike were kind of the first riders. Probably the best sponsor I ever had. They gave me oil all throughout my career, so I really didn't have to pay for it too much. And then I had just the little ones that I had here and there.
What moment was bigger, your 1985 state championships or winning the AMA National Championship in '96?
Well, the 85 state was probably the biggest because I actually wanted to win that one first because it was so, I don't know, it was a different feeling back then. A lot of big riders, tougher race. If you looked at the 1980 state championships, within that 10 years period of the 80 to 89, there was 9 different winners. I was the only one to win it twice in the 80s. So that race to me felt like that was a big accomplishment because of how hard it was to win that race.
Since 1996, there have only been 4 other winners of the AMA National Series. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's the tracks, change from Costa Mesa to a series. And then once it goes to a series, it's a different kind of race now. You don't just a one-night spurt like myself. I was better on a one-night championship than I was weekly. I couldn't beat an Andy Northrup on a weekly basis, but I beat a Mike Freya, Bobby Schwartz, Mike Bass during a championship. And it's a lot different mindset. And I think with the series now, you have to really think about every point.
Who raced you the hardest?
A lot of people race me hard with Bobby Schwartz, Mike Faria. Keith Crisco probably raced me harder than anybody. He ran into me almost every time we raced. And I asked him, I said, hey, why do you always have to run into me and bang me? He said, well, Steve, you're a really good rider and I trust you. So I can bang into you and not worry about it. And I went, oh, thanks a lot, Keith.
How'd you get the nickname Bad Boy and Lucy?
Well, Bad Boy probably came about with me and Bobby going at it in 86. We were banging handlebars. We made Sunday Night Sports with Fred Rogan. We did a lot of good riding. I think I didn't give an inch, and Bobby doesn't ever give an inch. So we crashed a lot of times. So I think that was the start of the Bad Boy. And Lucy just comes up with Sean McConnell. A lot of other guys just started calling me Lucy.
In 85, are you riding 6 days a week?
Yeah, we raced Ventura on Tuesday, Wednesday at IMS, Thursday was Ascot. Then we went, Friday, Costa Mesa, Saturday, Victorville, and then Sunday, Carlsbad.
Is that why you moved down to Southern California?
Well, I moved to Southern California the day after I turned 16, because I knew if I wanted to become a national or state champion, I needed to come down here and race with all the fast boys like Mike Bass and all those guys, Alan Christian. If I wasn't going to stay up to their pace, I would never win it. So came down here. My dad gave me a map. I don't think kids know what a map is, but gave me a map, circled the tracks, and that's where I started.
Did you ever play any jokes on riders?
No, I pretty much, I mean, we had a good time. We did some stuff with Bobby, me and Mike and Bobby. We played around here and there. We made a big bomb. Basically, it was a bowling ball, and we put a wick in it and put down there. We're going to drop the bomb on Bobby's on Boogaloo. So we carried this big old bowling ball and threw it at him, kind of scare him.
Do you feel you won the fight over Doug at Costa Mesa?
Well, of course I did. I had Harry Oxley take him out too. I had a little bit of help too.
So let's now move into the referee aspect. What is the toughest part about being a referee?
Refereeing juniors. As a junior, I feel for all these kids, and when I referee the championship races for them, it's kind of brutal, but it's what happens for them when they do move up. To me, that's kind of the hardest part, because they're out there having fun, and I don't like to see them cry because I was in that same position.
Are you ever tempted to watch the replay at industry of an accident before you make a call or an incident?
No. It's kind of nice sometimes. Most of the time I forget about it. But I made a decision that once I see something, I got to make the call right there. I don't try to second guess my own self. And right or wrong, I think I still made the right call. But I do go home and watch the video on like touching the tapes. There's been a few times that I kind of second guessed myself. Came home, so far so good. I've been pretty good on who's touched the tapes and stuff like that.
Did you ever piss off a referee back in the day?
I don't think I really pissed off a referee. We, as a racer, and I believe the same thing comes to me too, a rider just wants to know what's going on. And Erwin Moon, he was probably the best. He just look at you with this stare and say, that was my call. That's the way I'm going to go, and I'm going to move on. So it's really no second guessing him. And I think that's what I try to do, the same thing. This is what I saw. This is what I believe. That's the call. And most riders will be upset, but they do move on. And that's the way it goes. I've seen it a couple times with Austin. He fell down in one race, thought he got a restart, got pissed off. And I think he won all the next races and made it to the final at the Nationals a couple years ago. So I think it's one of those things that I think the riders just want an honest answer, no gibbery or macho stuff.
When you referee, sometimes I notice you're up in the booth at like Fast Fridays in Santa Maria. Where is it best for you to watch a race from?
Each aspect of the race, I think, falls different. I like being on the infield for a few reasons. Closer to the action, a very good sight on the starting line. If I had a camera down there that I could look at, that would be better if I was up in the booth. But first corner, stuff like that is infield, and I've always liked that because the riders can come to me and talk. When I'm up in the booth, it's good for handicap racing, like at Auburn and stuff. If the crowd or the race gets spread apart, I can see a little bit more of it. But I've always thought the infield was the best just because of the finishes.
When I see you on the infield, you're much more than a referee. You're like the first to respond to any accidents. You're like a paramedic. You're also like timekeeper because of curfews and stuff. I've noticed that on the last ride. You look at the watch for timekeeping, and you and Tom Fox seem to work together really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, I work with the whole crew there. Tom knows that when we're running late to get the guys up quicker, I run out there, make sure the guys get on the track sooner, no practice starts. Ryan Evans knows that. And that's just part of a race. We don't want to lose a racetrack. With paramedics and stuff like that, I think as a racer, when you crash, you don't want to see a paramedic. You want to see somebody you really know. And I think that's the concept I'm trying to do with the juniors and anybody else. Trust me, because I'm not going to give you false information. I'm going to take care of your kid. I'm going to take care of your spouse or whatever that's out there. Wait for me to give you the signal, because sometimes your help makes it worse most of the time. Bob Hicks was probably, for an example, I ran over to him and he told me to cut his leathers. And I'm like, well, why? I broke my arm. I mean, he knew instantly, and I hate doing it, but I cut his leathers off, and there was his arm with his big old burn in it. And then I just went, wow, at least he knew. But he didn't panic either, because he knew that I was coming, knew exactly what to get done. And I hope all the riders know that, because if they do crash, I will take care of them and help them out as much as possible, because I think I've saved a lot of leathers without these last few years.
I also see them up start the kids out too when they have bad starts, or like the peewees, get them started.
Yeah, you know what? They get up there and they just drop that clutch and they stall it. I'll try to get them pushed. And second division and third division, they don't know how to start their bike sometimes. And it frustrates me, because I want them to at least have a chance. Because the best practice that anybody can ever have, they're going to Milestone, they're doing a lot of laps. But the best practice you can ever have is a race. You can't practice 4 laps of a race.
Do you think lay-down motors or upright motors will be better racing at the short tracks we have in the U.S.?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, because, I mean, the technology has changed so much, not just the laydowns, but frames, front ends, the way the motors run. Like Billy Gennaro, I mean, he runs a bike that barely has any RPMs, but he's the only one that can ride that bike. So I think with a laydown, you're going to get a way better start on it. The controllable of a bike, you're going to use it as an upright, because you can put the bike anywhere you want. But we can't go backwards in anything that we do with European riders riding the laydowns. We have to do the same thing for any of these kids to have a chance when they do go overseas.
Are you going to be refereeing all the AMA races this year?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's going to go yet. I know that they're still in talk about all the tracks on which ones they're going to use. I was the first one with Charlie, I think it was Brad, and I think Dave. We all did the series, and I was part of that first AMA national series back then, and it was great. It was a big step towards American AMA national.
Do you still have a Speedway bike?
No, I do not. I wish I would have kept it, but I got rid of all of it.
Would you ride again if we never did a Silver Cup with all the older riders?
Well, I rode back at the old Pirates racetrack a few years ago, and way more than a few years ago now. But I made a few laps, and I think that was it. I mean, I kind of proved myself. I like having fun on my 450 now, because it's got electric start, and it's pretty nice.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a sales rep for Joseph Farm Cheese. I've been there for 25 years now.
And so, what do you do? Do you go in the grocery stores and do the sales?
Yeah, grocery stores, WIC warehouses, stuff like that, just making sure our cheese is presentable, our product is on the shelf, and stores are getting their product at a good price, and delivery and stuff like that.
Where do you live now?
I live in Winchester, just pretty close to Marietta, basically.
Who's your favorite football team?
Oakland Raiders.
Are you happy to see a move or sad?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I've always been an Oakland Raiders fan, because I was born and raised up there in Northern California. When they come to Southern California, it was the same year I moved to Southern California. So it's kind of ironic that they did that, but I think it'll be good for them. Plus, I like our new head coach now.
You recently had a Halloween party. Who'd you dress as at your Halloween party?
I didn't go to no Halloween party.
You didn't have a Halloween party where you dressed as yourself?
No, that was Kelly Inman. I had what year? I don't even know what year that was, but we had a Halloween party. I covered the whole back with black tarp. Kelly came in there and painted all this because he's a great artist. Painted all this stuff on the walls. Left. Came back the next day. Knocked on the door. Well, I didn't know that my ex-wife and stuff gave him clothes that I wear. He knocked on the door, and there he was with a wig on and all my clothes. He looked just like me.
Is there anything else you want to add or want me to ask to add?
Not too much. I mean, I think Speedway is in a tough situation all the way around with riders. People complain about them going overseas, not coming back. Some of the riders, think they have a lot of privilege on riding first division when they're not ready. It's tough. A lot of these people just need to realize that Speedway is a special sport. You need to go out there and ride, learn the trade, and don't worry about the guys that are going overseas, the fans and stuff like that, because that's their goal. And I think, Luke Becker is probably the next one to go. Probably the best young rider that I've seen in a long time, minus Max. I think Max himself, I haven't seen a guy ride a bike like him in a long time. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to go over. He's got a different path, and I don't blame him for that because that's his choice. And I think that's the whole thing. Just like myself, I went to Europe in '84 just to contend the under 21. Finished third on the podium, and it's kind of ironic that I'm the last American to even make the podium.
I totally forgot about you riding in Europe. What teams did you ride for in Europe?
I went over there and rode for Eastbourne, and then about halfway through, 3/4 of the way, they made some changes, and I moved to Wolverhampton. And I think Wolverhampton really opened my eyes about the racing and stuff like that. I got more help over there for some reason. I rode better over there. But the biggest upkeep that I ever got was Denny Segalis getting hurt, actually. And he came up to me and gave me a bike and a mechanic for my under 21. And I had a world-class bike and a mechanic under me, and I went out there and I beat and competed against Neil Evitz and Andy Smith and Marvin Cox and all those guys that are top of the line. So it just proved to me that all I needed was a good equipment, and I thank Denny Segalis tremendously for giving me that opportunity.
Any Speedway riders you see moving up that you're looking forward to in the U.S.?
Well, we have Colton Hicks that's going to be next. I think he's a really good rider. I think he's a better big track rider. I think he's going to struggle at Costa Mesa. I think he'll struggle a little bit at Auburn because of the tight turns, but I think he'll get it. I think he's got a lot of talent as long as he doesn't get hurt. I think most of the kids, he just can't get hurt. I think Sebastian will be next. Other than that, I don't see too much, and I think it all comes down how fast they are doesn't really mean too much. It's all up in the head, always has been. Greg Hancock might have been a good junior rider, an okay junior rider, but his mindset was better than anybody else out there. And look what he's done, being a 4-time world champion. Billy Hamill, not that good of a racer as a junior speedway rider. Goes out there, becomes a world champion. So I don't think junior speedway is something that you need to look at as how fast they are. It's just how good of that head is on that shoulder.
Speaking about junior speedway, we're almost out of time. We have the Gumball Rally. Do you have any sign off or something for the Gumball Rally?
Oh man, the Gumball Rally is a fun thing to do. They've got the big boys on Saturday, and then Sunday we have the little kids. And most of them, when they get done racing, it's so good to see them all happy and running around with Travis Horn, Luke, all those guys just running around. And I think that's the best part about it. They're all buddies after, and I think that's what carries any motorsport to the next level is these kids having a good time in the pits.
All right. Well, thank you for the time. I really look forward to seeing you at industry. I'll post the industry schedule on the end of this, but I look forward to seeing you at industry.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Steve, for this interview. Steve has a YouTube channel. I'll put a link to subscribe to his YouTube channel right here. Here's an interview I recorded with Luke Becker. You can subscribe to my channel right here. Also, my last interview with Travis Corner Speed Horn will be right here. Also, link to the photo sites of Scott Daloisio's photos is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, and next week's interview will be with Chance Grove. Bye, have a great week. See you next weekend.